It's no longer your brother's pop brownies. Now edibles come in all forms: sodas, candies.
I couldn't really move my limbs.
Cookies, cake, juice, ice cream, cereal.
I couldn't really operate or function.
Pastas, soups.
I was pretty much just laying there, lifeless and nauseous.
I was in school and my friends, they were like, "Oh, do you want a brownie?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm straight."
The green rush here in Colorado is about to get even bigger. This week, state licenses went out to local businesses, giving them the green light to start selling recreational marijuana.
I think the legalization of marijuana movement has been harmful for young people because of the misinformation that is being presented.
We're giving a false message to young people and adults that marijuana is benign, that it's just a natural plant, that it's like actually good for you.
For 100 years, the tobacco industry preyed on essentially 8th and 9th graders for their business model, okay? They needed 8th, 9th, and 10th graders to get rich because those were their future customers. Today, marijuana is doing the same thing. We have big marijuana, just like we had big tobacco, and it's growing every day.
A lot of the marijuana that, the past generations were smoking was maybe 5-10% THC. And then now we have things like hash oil and the hash oil edibles where people are not taking in 10 milligrams of THC, they're taking in 200 milligrams of THC.
My friend had bought one and she ate half of it and she was sitting in class extremely high and I didn't realize it until like 20 minutes into the period.
Marijuana is a very complex plant. There are hundreds of components in it, but one of the components acts on different cells in your brain and body and makes you feel high. That one component is called THC.
So a cannabinoid is either a naturally occurring substance that the body makes to help regulate all of the body's systems, but particularly mood, appetite, a couple other wake and sleep cycles, or you can put a cannabinoid into your body through any of the marijuana products.
Both smoking and eating pot are both bad for you, but they're very different. When you smoke something, it hits the brain really fast.
So if you smoke marijuana, and I'm certainly not advocating smoking marijuana, but the user immediately feels a high in less than 20 seconds.
When you're puffing on a joint, it's sort of like dosing yourself, puff by puff. So, the marijuana enters your lungs and then your bloodstream and into your brain very quickly. With edible marijuana, because of the process that it takes, goes through your stomach, gets absorbed, and ultimately then has to pass through your liver where all toxins go. One of the breakdown products of THC when you ingest it is believed to be even more intense in terms of the effects than the initial THC that you're consuming. Oftentimes people assume that the inhaled version must be the most potent because it goes right to your brain, but not in this case.
I don't think edible marijuana would be unhealthy, but I don't think it would be healthy either.
There was the perception that it would be more healthy because it didn't involve inhaling smoke.
Also, a lot of people smoke marijuana from cigar papers or tobacco leaves, which of course is not really the best thing for you.
My first experience with edibles actually wasn't too long ago, and it was from my own doing. It was a decision I made. I wanted to bake my boyfriend an edible birthday cake, and I had no idea what I was doing.
The first time I had an encounter with edible marijuana was at my friend's house. She had recently baked a batch of brownies. I tried one of the brownies. I didn't feel anything at first.
And I was assuming that it might be kind of the same thing, like take a little, see how you feel, maybe take a little more.
There's no real way to judge how potent it's going to be, how much you eat, so it's kind of eat some and wait, like a throw you in the deep end and hope you don't sink kind of thing.
If you're a heavier set guy and you take an edible, I think it would hit you slower than it would to be if you were skinnier.
Depending on the person's height, weight, the metabolism, how empty their stomach is, if they're dehydrated, etc., taking a small dose may take up to an hour to have any effect.
From the time that I ate the brownie, I felt the effects about an hour and a half after, 2 hours.
Part of the problem too is the latency period, that time where you're not feeling anything. A lot of consumers will consume more thinking they're not getting the desired effect.
Eventually, when I did start feeling some of the effects of the marijuana, I became very hungry. I had the munchies, so I saw the rest of the batch of brownies and I decided to eat the rest.
I think if someone were to have an edible they're only supposed to eat that one brownie. If they keep continuing to eat, that high is going to pretty much be like a smack in their face.
Hypothetically, you pop one gummy bear at, 6 o'clock at night. If nothing happens till 6:30, you pop a second and a third. Well, now by 7:30, you have maybe 4 times the recommended dose in your system.
It's hard to just stop at that allotted dose if you even have a dose in mind.
When we ingest THC, it lasts much longer because some is being absorbed in the stomach, some is being absorbed in the small intestine, more is being absorbed in the large intestine.
After it finally kicked in, it was like 10 times that if you were to smoke it. And I started getting some adrenaline, my heart would start racing a little bit. It was very intense though.
After an hour or two, I started to get dizzy. I wasn't able to stand. I wasn't really able to speak. And I ended up on the floor.
I mean, unless you go to the emergency room and they give you carbon or make you vomit, that experience is going to last hours and hours. It's in your system for quite some time.
I was very, very nauseous. I felt like I was going to throw up. Even though I didn't, I felt like I was going to throw up for a very, very long time.
I've never seen labels on marijuana.
Some of them will come in just clear wrappers. Some of them will have a sticker on it that just says edible, but it won't have any information of how much THC is inside of it. It just says edibles on it, nothing else.
One of the biggest concerns with edibles is the labeling. It's not clear. The products that I've seen aren't sort of specific enough.
I'm from Colorado, so I've had firsthand experiences with dispensaries and the store-bought products. Every edible that you can buy in the dispensary says what's in there. There's the contents on every single package.
I mean, we know with other drugs, your body size matters, your gender matters. I have not seen that kind of information on the packaging. With alcohol, at least you have the bottle to reference how much was consumed. The edibles, it's not as clear.
When they say the serving size is 1 arm and 1 leg or 1 head of a gummy bear, it's a total joke because everyone just pops these things like popcorn, like there's no tomorrow.
You just, mindlessly kind of, and then all of a sudden you're screwed.
It could be the difference between a mild buzz that takes a few hours to a psychotic episode.
If people are making these brownies, how do they know how much to put in? How do they know how much is enough? How much do they know is too much?
They would just kind of have some type of guesswork until they think it's enough.
The cake turned out to be so much stronger than I ever even imagined it would be. I literally took probably 1 bite of it and I was just on the floor.
I wouldn't associate hallucinations with marijuana.
For one teen, they may consume it and have a hallucination. For another, they may just sort of feel like comatose. They just want to sit down until it wears off.
I started to feel the body high and then I just couldn't think straight, almost like in a paralyzed state. It was not enjoyable, way psychedelic, just complete weird body high.
I was really scared, but I really didn't know what to do because I really couldn't move. I couldn't lift my arms, and consuming too much basically resulted in my body shutting down.
I don't think death is associated with marijuana in places where it's illegal because people don't do it as much.
Your body can only take but so much, so if you keep eating it, you just be stuck and you won't know what to do. And that's where I think the paranoia comes from.
Tetrahydrocannabinol, the active ingredient in edibles, is classified as a hallucinogen for a reason. In high doses, it will make people hallucinate.
Christine Kirk called 911 and told the operator Richard appeared to be hallucinating. She worried about her safety and the safety of their children. She said her husband had just eaten some marijuana-laced candy.
Certainly not the first time we have heard about edibles blamed for deaths in this state.
This is actually the 3rd case of marijuana edibles being linked to a death in Colorado.
It's so easy to eat too many and feel the wacky effects and freak out. All of a sudden you're fine. The next minute you're going crazy.
The deaths are always related to actions taken while extremely high.
An exchange student fell to his death after ingesting marijuana in Colorado. The first death linked to the drug since it was legalized in the U.S. state.
A 19-year-old, he's studying in Wyoming. He leaves Wyoming with his friends for a weekend to go to Denver because pot was just legalized. Somebody was 21, bought a bunch of it, edibles, cookies, candies, lollipops. He ate one of them. And according to his friends and according to eyewitness accounts, he all of a sudden had a huge panic attack. He thought the lights were attacking him. He thought the walls were coming in.
It appears this young man had a full-blown psychotic episode, and who knows what was exactly going on in his mind.
Nobody could understand this is what pot is doing to him. Wow, they were shocked. And he ended up going outside and jumping off of the balcony to his death.
The evidence is mounting that there are many additional accidental deaths that are happening because of psychotic symptoms due to high dosing of tetrahydrocannabinol.
I was at my friend's house, and he had it from like a night before, and I thought it was a regular brownie, and I ate it.
One of the most dangerous things that I really want people to understand about edibles is they look so fun and benign.
When a kid sees candy, they just want to eat it. They wouldn't know if there is edible marijuana in it. They would just see the candy.
It's become an issue in a lot of the emergency rooms. They're having a huge influx of people that accidentally eat brownies, cookies, candies.
So if you're at a party and you're a young person and you see someone go through an intense change in their personality, like you saw them earlier and they looked fine, and now all of a sudden they're saying very strange things.
I don't think I would probably worry about calling 911 if they were a little wacky, because I mean, it would be a party, so I'd figure that they'd probably be a little drunk.
Don't handle a paranoid situation alone. You are always protected by Good Samaritan law. If you call 911 and say, I have a friend here, I think he's hallucinating from weed or some kind of drugs, please come and help him, but please don't arrest me. I'm invoking Good Samaritan law. Young people can't be arrested.
If they were hallucinating and they seemed to be a danger to themselves, then I would call 911.
I think I'm mentally addicted to marijuana and edibles, but I don't think I'm physically addicted.
You can absolutely, positively get addicted to THC. Smokables, edibles, vaping, etc. THC gets your brain addicted and gets the dopaminergic reward system of your brain, so the part of your brain that gives you intense pleasure. And it starts, the more we use THC and the more our brains are addicted to THC, the less pleasure we feel in any other activity not related to THC. And it's a very vicious cycle.
The bottom line is, we know if you are 16, you have a 1 in 6 chance of becoming addicted at some point to THC if you try it. Meaning 6 kids try THC, 1 will get addicted. That's from research 20 years ago. A lot of people think that number is much higher now given the potency.
It does worry me, especially saying it out loud, but there's a lot of times you're like, oh, I'm gonna quit, by the end of the month, or I'm gonna quit, next week, and then 6 months later you're still like, it is kind of addictive.
I don't think, marijuana killing brain cells is something that people think about.
I saw it as something harmless. I saw it as something that couldn't hurt me.
I don't know if THC is the harmful component of marijuana.
It is slow and seductive and impacts memory and learning and the ability to form relationships.
I definitely have a lot more anxiety, and I think that it's kind of a rebound effect, that after medicating away the anxiety for so long, that once the medication's taken away, the initial anxiety is experienced tenfold.
It does kind of affect my short-term memory. I'll be high and forget where I sat things at.
I do think that there's long-term effects. I do see kind of like a slowing. I'm a little bit lazier than I usually am. I don't work out as much.
I experience a level of depression on most days that I feel has been in part due to all the alteration and damage that I've done to that portion of my brain.
It doesn't affect your brain as much if you're older, because your brain is basically already done growing.
The brain of an adolescent is exploding in development. It's making hundreds of millions of new connections. We think probably monthly, but definitely annually. Unfortunately, the brain is also open to damage in a way that it will never be again. Like a soft-shell crab that loses its shell for a period of growth and then grows a new external skeleton and is now protected again.
I can definitely tell when I'm trying to think of words. I can't, my sentences don't really fall off the tip of my tongue as easily as they may have been before.
I'm worried that I'm losing brain cells that I can't get back and memories that I'm forgetting and my family's remembering.
Young people ingesting marijuana even once a month or so for a limited period of time during early adolescence reduce their lifetime IQ by 8 to 10 points.
Why would you want to put your brain at risk? Why would you want to put your education at risk? And that's a scary thought.
I definitely think there's a big push for legalizing marijuana for money reasons.
Businesses, of course, are seeing green as certain pot shops, the ones already selling medical marijuana, will open their doors to a whole new clientele.
There are a highly concentrated few number of adults that have absolutely no interest in your health, have no interest in your well-being, have no interest in anything but your money. And they want you to buy these products. They want to make sure there's no regulations against these products for no other reason than to make a whole lot of money very quickly and very easily.
What these companies are doing to these marijuana products today are totally manipulating the THC that gets you high, right? The ingredient that gets you high, manipulating that high to make it as large as possible.
The truth is, alcohol is legal and it kills hundreds of thousands of people a year. Tobacco has actually never been illegal in the United States and causes more deaths per day than anything else in the world.
This isn't a benign plant, and we have companies purposefully targeting you to be their lifelong customer. If you want to be their lifelong customer, just like your grandfather was Philip Morris's lifelong customer, go for it. But you need to know that there are risks inherent to this, and this isn't just a totally benign thing that the internet's telling you it is.
I mean, of course, you always have things you wish you would have done differently. If I could go back, just because, me personally, I let it become more of a factor in my life than I should have. I did a lot of things just to go smoke that I shouldn't have did while I was in high school and things like that.
I do worry about my health, yes. And I'm anxious to see kind of what happens when I stop. If a little bit of that sharpness comes back, but it does worry me.
Lifetime using marijuana through adolescence will have a long-term impact in your happiness, your satisfaction in life, your relationships, your memory.
Check out naturalhigh.org. It's a great site that promotes natural highs using celebrities, talking about their natural highs and why they enjoy them.
I mean, I choose not to smoke marijuana or choose to do edible marijuana because my brain is still growing and I still want to focus on school, and I don't want to be doing marijuana and might get sidetracked off of schoolwork.
Going to the gym, working out, finding a sport, getting a job.
It's important for me not to do it just because I've seen a friend who smoked it a lot and now she has a lot of memory problems, and I don't have any desire to smoke anything or to eat an edible.
Be smarter than your culture, use critical thinking, really find out what weed can do, and
be smart.
Don't start.